Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the in the series of 3 of Mata's COVID-19 Bread and Butter series. Today, we are going to take a look at the future of travel trends and market recovery post COVID-19. Now, before we begin, we're very lucky to have with us tonight 3 very distinguished speakers. Of course, from our own ranks, we have Datuk Tan Kok Yang. From our close partners, the Malaysian Association of Hotels, we have Acting President, Mr. Muhammad Halim American. And of course, a person that is no stranger to the tourism industry, we have Datuk Haji Yusof, the Director General of Tourism Malaysia. Now, just a quick introduction to the 3 gentlemen. Datuk Tan, besides being, of course, the MATA President, the current term, holds a Masters of Tourism from the University of Toulouse. He's also a Chartered Accountant and also a CHA, owning a hotel along the banks of the Sandakan River. He's currently the Director of Borneo Trails Tours and Travel, has been in the industry for a very, very long time, and under his company has won multiple awards, including Best Inbound Tour Operator Domestic Malaysia by Tourism Malaysia in 2014 and 15. At the same time, we also have Mr. Halim American, who is the Acting President of the Malaysian Association of Hotels. Mr. Halim is a graduate in hotel management and is an experienced veteran in the hospitality industry, I believe with over 32 years of international and local 5-star hotel experience, including corporate management within the region. Now, he's currently the acting president and, of course, also a certified hotel administrator and knows some of the best spots in KL to go to. Now, last but not least, we have Dato' Musa, who is the Director General of Tourism Malaysia. His list of experience is way too long to repeat within the next minute, so I'll just keep it nice and simple. Dato' Musa joined back then the Tourist Development Corporation Malaysia in 1990, and with over 25 years of experience in Tourism Malaysia, as it is now known, he has served in various capacities and divisions from enforcement and facilitation all the way up until marketing regionally and on the international global market scene. Now, during his tenure in Tourism Malaysia, he took several key positions, one of which was the Special Officer of Tourism to the Honourable Minister of Culture, Arts and Tourism in 98 to 99. He was also the Director of Tourism Malaysia office in Paris until 2003. He later went on to become the Senior Director overseeing strategic promotions for Asia and African markets, and was subsequently appointed the Director General of Tourism Malaysia on the 3rd of November 2018. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being on the panel with us. Now, before we get into the meat of the matter, just a quick recap on some of the issues that we have tackled in the past. First and foremost, we held the first of 3 series entitled Protecting the Tourism Workforce, where we looked at the challenges that were faced by operators, especially travel agents and tour operators, and how they were having difficulty and challenges retaining talent in their companies. Next up, in the second series, we looked at banking, finance, and leasing for the tourism industry, and how financial challenges were grossly affecting the way many tour operators and travel agents were working, especially for those who own fleets of vehicles and those who were looking desperately for capital and operational funds to stay afloat in the hopes that they would be competitive when the market recovered. So today, we're going to look at the final of the three series, which is basically a look at what the future of travel is going to be like, what travel trends are emerging, and how the markets are going to respond, not only in Malaysia, but regionally and globally, once the COVID-19 situation starts to normalize. As we all know, the recovery horizon is slated to be at least a year from now at the very minimum. And just to share a few interesting facts with everybody here today, Mata conducted a targeted survey on the travel sentiments of Malaysians together with partner Rakuten. So if we could have the quick slide infographic that we did put up on screen, please. Wonderful. Now, ladies and gents, this slide, along with the full kit, will be given out to all attendees via email. You'll be able to download the materials from all three series, maybe in another 2 or 3 days from now. Now, very quickly, travel sentiments in general during the COVID-19, we did a quick survey of people, Malaysians, and out of that, we looked basically at the age groups, highest of which were 39%, 25 to 35-year-olds who are avid travelers. The majority were either married or single, almost equal numbers. And the general household income of those surveyed was about 7,000 and above. Now, on top of that, we also looked at the social media platforms that are generally well used by users. WhatsApp tops the list at 95% and Facebook at 86%. Now, we asked a very interesting question, and the question was, if you wanted to contact a travel agent after the MCO had been lifted to book a trip or get more information, which method would you prefer? And a staggering 66% answered and said they would rather communicate via communication apps like WhatsApp, WeChat, and Telegram. 64% indicated websites, 57% emails, 43% telephone calls, and only 34% said they were keen to meet face-to-face. And finally, we asked also if they were to plan a trip through a travel agent after the MCO, which of the following would be convincing? Top of the list was a travel insurance policies which covers any disruption caused by COVID-19 or other viruses. And of course, discounts, flights and attractions. And more importantly, no charges for change of flight tickets. On the next slide, we basically asked them about domestic travel and what concerns that Malaysians would have once the MCO was lifted. 86% basically said they had health concerns over the COVID-19, and 76% said safety concerns during travels due to the instability of the country and lockdowns. Now, we see this probably changing a little bit now with the CMCO, but we are still waiting to see how things will develop. Now, other important things to note would be 80%, 7% of them said they would travel on their own. And surprisingly enough, many of them indicated that they would still, 77% said they would still prefer to travel with family or relatives. So in that sense, the Asian public's travel habits haven't changed very much. Halim, you'll be pleased to know that 50% said they'd rather stay in 2 to 3 star hotels and 60% in 4 to 5 star hotels. Now, last but not least, we also did a survey on outbound travel, which is also very important. Malaysians love to travel. Again, we see similar numbers where family and relatives people prefer to travel together with family and relatives. The numbers don't change very much when compared to domestic traveling habits. And what would give more confidence for Malaysians to travel overseas for their holidays? Again, the overwhelming response of the degree of the infection being under control in a destination country, followed by a successful vaccine for COVID-19, followed by good healthcare systems in the destination country, so on and so forth. But these numbers, interestingly enough, don't differ very much from 62 to 81%. And 62% of people said that it would depend heavily on their own financial stability. And last but not least, the cruise sector seems set to be heavily affected, with 49% not considering traveling via cruise at all. So, ladies and gents, The big question will be, what is going to be the new norms of travel? What is going to change? How are people going to view traveling domestically, regionally, and internationally? What can we do as the travel industry in order to overcome some of these challenges? Now, to give us an overview of the current state of affairs for travel agents and operators, I'd like to invite Dr. Tan Kok Liang, the president of MATA, to give his views and opinions on the state of the industry currently. Dr. Tan, over to you.
Thank you, Nigel. And panelists, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes. In response to Nigel's comments, as we all know, this COVID-19 has decimated the whole industry. And if you look into the aviation with a physical distancing at 77%, I don't think they'll be breaking even at the end of this year. The hotel industry, their break-even point, I understand, is 40%, and they are running the average of 30% at the end of this year. For the tours and travel sector, we are not even allowed to start our operations. And bear in mind that we have 18,000 tour excursion hire drive vehicles nationwide. And I can see at the situation we are running, there will be petition by creditors to wind up tourism companies due to inability to repay debts, probably starting by October 2020 and January 2021. You will see banks foreclosing organizations in the tourism sector as a moratorium preventing banks from taking legal action will end on 31st December 2020. It's against this background of travel bans, not knowing when we are going to open borders. But today we are going to talk about the future trends and what we can do to overcome the situation that we are facing in. The key challenge in the industry we are facing today is a blunt truth that weak demand due to global recession, travel bans, and more importantly, the fear to travel due to COVID-19. The stay-at-home tagline is for 2020. So we need to overcome all these challenges as we move ahead. Under this economic situation, health and psychological landscape, there will be a significant shift in the tourism industry. And so in the coming 12 months, it's going to be very challenging, and the new norm and health protocols will be in place to curb COVID-19 outbreak. And the tourism stakeholders must adapt to the new norm in conducting their operations to comply with health requirements and ensuring the safety of employees and clients. And interesting questions include the following. Can airlines keep people apart and make profit? Check-in actually get better at airports. We have read so much about future checking in, self-check-in, disinfection, contactless. Will people get back to cruises? Will physical distancing and new protocols kill off Airbnb businesses? Physical distancing will naturally overcome over-tourism, you know that. And exactly when and where will travelers book their tours? So today we are also looking at the travel trends. Safe travel and health confidence are the new priorities and are here to stay. And looking at the travel trends, including tour packages need modifications to embed physical distancing, space, privacy, and other health protocol checks. In the recent survey, as mentioned by Nigel, 90% of respondents said that they were confident enough to travel the next 4 months, and 81% were confident to travel overseas, and 86% are having health concerns over COVID-19, and 87% would prefer to travel by own vehicles, and 60% would consider staying at 4 to 5 star hotels. So if you look at this, obviously the FIT segment will be here to stay, and group tours will not be common. And we can expect that family, relative, close friends, colleagues will travel to dominate the market. And young generation of travelers will also increase. And FIT travel segment, we expect them to be cost conscious, price sensitive due to global recession. But the travel industry, I could foresee that they will be hungry for businesses, and therefore more flexibility in our rates, in promotionals, in discounts. And preference will be on, I can see preference will be on more on the outdoor, nature, adventure activities. Beach, seasides are popular, and food trails. and there will be opportunity to develop rural tourism destinations. So privateers and car rentals, I can see higher bookings will be coming, and road trips, and of course, resorts, villa, brands will survive simply because confidence and Airbnb with the new health protocols. I'm sure the public perception will be very, they'll be concerned on the health safety. On the market recovery side, today I want to talk more on the market recovery measures. I think this is more important. Dato Musa and of course Encik Malim, these are very important issues. The first one I want to look into is consistent application of health and safety protocols to the travel and tour industry. I think at this moment of time, Dato Musa, leadership to the country is very important. No gimmicks, promotional rates, special videos to show all the beautiful pictures. When the fear to travel, even today at Kuala Lumpur, I'm sure that the F&B hotels are not really operating. F&B malls, they are running at 20-30%. Right now I'm speaking at Kota Kinabalu. Although we are allowed to open, this whole building, this whole street is all empty and deserted because of the fear. And therefore, Mata would propose to boost confidence, health accreditation consistently applied throughout the supply chain should be taken. It involves value chain for aviation, hotels, places of attractions, transportation, theme parks, these cruises. This need to be done together in consistent with even with World Health Organization or the World Travel and Tourism Council. And travelers will only venture out into the world when they feel it's safe to travel. Therefore, it's critical for stakeholders to provide them with the confidence, travelers, and the peace of mind. If we cannot overcome this first barrier, whatever promotions and to lure them, even today, if I ask you, Dato Musa or panelist Mr. Halim, would you want to come out for a drink? You will say, let's stay at home, let's carry home the food, because we ourselves have this fear. So we must overcome the psychological barrier and also having the health and safety protocols in every establishment to make sure that the domestic and later the international tourists will come back. So to me, this is the most important thing. And we can see that in UK and in Singapore, Turkey, Thailand, all these quality marks are in place either through self-examination, through vigorous online training, and also through spot checks. If they don't comply, they'll be taken off the mark. So this is to boost domestic travelers' confidence that it's safe to travel. That's the most important point for today. Of course, Nigel, stop me if I overrun my time. The second one is to fix dates for easing of travel restrictions so that tourism industry players can restart tourism and marketing campaigns. It's very important. We don't know the time yet. We don't know the dates. And sometimes when we talk without knowing what is the dates, it's very, very difficult. The third one, easing up borders gradually with neighboring countries. For example, with ASEAN.
I think Dato Tan, your the mic went off there. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
You have to just quickly repeat the last couple of seconds. We lost you for a moment.
Okay, the second one, to fix tentative dates. To fix tentative dates for easing of travel restrictions so that tourism industry players, we know when we can restart our marketing campaigns. The third point, easing up borders gradually with neighboring countries, for example, with ASEAN. I know the government position is to fight COVID, but it has driven Malaysians to poverty. Look at me now, I'm getting very thin. Why? The lives and livelihoods of Malaysians are intertwined, and we need to strike a balance, Dato Musa. We need to strike a balance. Other countries, we can see in the EU, countries that depend heavily on tourism, Portugal, Spain, and certain countries, they are opening by June 15. In Malaysia, we don't even know when we are going to open. More difficult is we are not even allowed to operate. Number 4, I'm sure this is a quick one. Government grants for digital marketing, maintaining health and safety protocols and overseas promotions. We need to get it done. Free participation is not enough, but we need to have marketing partnership program to help tourism businesses to maintain international presence. Qualified marketing costs for gamelan. I think 50% we should increase to 70% for under tourism Malaysia. Okay, I'll quickly run on the 5th points. Boosting domestic tourism through packages, perhaps to even $200. Tour package, you have to go through a tour package. We include hotel, tours, transportation. It's not just a voucher that I can fly to KL and get my $100 as proposed by certain states or the government. That's not good enough. Corporate travels. Recent survey by MATA, 58% will travel outbound after 1 year. So we need tax incentives for companies, MICE, to have events in Malaysia. Number 7, government need to have a clear distinction between MICE event and mass gatherings. And business MICE events can operate under comprehensive health protocols. Today, even the government is not sure how our business components, and that's the reason why we are not allowed to initially even to open office. We had the good office of Datuk Musa and the MOTEC, talk to the MKN, and we got able to do our administrative works. These are misconceptions, and we are categorized as under reflexology, pubs, bars. That is not right. But I thank you for Dr. Musa that we're able to get this through. And we are talking about MATA initiative very quickly. MATA initiative, we're going to have sanitizing and disinfectant procedures on tourism vehicles. The slide, please. Tourism estimate being recorded and placing social media platform and assuring overseas clients. Once we have the SOP sanitizing procedures in vehicles, in tourism establishment, we will get the confidence. And of course, point number 9, MATA will be going into a very domestic procedures. Please run through it fast. Number 9, MATA will be having domestic online travel fairs in September 2020, and we're going to have digitalization is crucial for tours and travel industry to grow sustainability. So our MATA technology platforms will be launched in July 2020. And we're going to start promotion soon. In addition, tour operators will begin to use digital technology for planning purposes, managing the flow of tourists, monitoring movement of tourists, and using QR codes even for commencing of tours. Next. Okay, very quickly, I'm going to finish, Mr. Nigel. We're going to engage with insurance companies for travel policies which cover disruptions caused by COVID-19. Travel policies need to look. Number 11, flexibility of terms and conditions in travel packages and in all the way in the value chain, which includes hotels, airlines, theme parks, and other service providers. Today, refunds and cancellation policies, we are in a situation that we are like financing customers because hotel service providers, they don't give us a money refund. We have deposits in the airlines. We are just like a banker, but we have any money, no revenue, zero revenue coming into our pockets. So this is the situation we have. And number 12, with the new norm of wanting space and privacy, with the increasing of FIT tourists, we need to have 24 hours tour assistance programs. We need to have subsidy of packages for tour operators and providing some related freebies for FIT segment. This need to be looked into. This is a MATA initiative. And also we are number 13, we are going to revamp our professional businesses, take away the traditional ways of doing business, and we are doing more on a global marketing using webs, using tools. And we're using our MATA Academy. We are also looking into businesses affected by the to rethink strategies and prepare for recovery. So we will be doing a lot of web training, which cover topics like digital marketing, online collaboration tools to support remote working. So these are the points that I would like to bring out, Mr. Nigel. I pass it back to the moderator. I think I've completed most of the points. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you, Dato' Tan. I'm quite sure at some point in time we're going to revisit that. So be prepared for more questions. Okay. As Dato' Tan has already said, the current outlook in the market is that we have just gone through what many consultants call the restructuring phase, which is where companies struggle to retain manpower and to be competitive when things start to move. And many consulting companies have also indicated that once this phase is over and we are going into that phase, we need to look at rebuilding. Now, that being said, we also need to look at ways to not just put the responsibility entirely on the shoulders of the government, because this takes a team effort. Everyone in the world is experiencing similar difficulties, and once we come out of this, we are going to be competing on a global scale. So one of the key things that has been touted by Mata for now is empowerment of the industry so that the private sector can also do its bit, reach further together with the public sector in order to address the challenges faced by the tourism industry. Now, you've heard from the tour and travel operators. Now, what will be interesting to do now is to hear from one of the tour and travel operators' closest partners. Unfortunately, the airlines could not make it tonight, but we have with us Mr. Muhammad Halim American, the acting president of the Malaysian Association of Hotels. Mr. Halim, why don't you give us a quick idea of what's going on in the hotel industry?
Good evening, Nigel. Could you hear me? Volume is good?
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. And also good evening to the other panelists, Dato' Tan, Dato' Mus. Okay, Dato' Tan, I think you have covered quite a bit of your challenges which are currently going through by the travel agent industry. Of course, as Nigel, you correctly say that we are very close partners, yeah. And I don't want to repeat what I've said many times in this previous webinars. However, the current situation in hotels, basically, we are known as one of the essential businesses. And what has transpired over the last couple of weeks, we have actually allocated. Yeah, first of all, MEH has got about 1,200 members, comprising from 3 stars, some even budget hotel joined as members. Yeah, so basically, out of our members, about 35,000 rooms were allocated for the quarantine purposes, which was required by the government. However, only about 20,000 has been taken up. Yeah, and with the CMCO that's currently happening, basically some of the hotels that were listed but not used as quarantine has de-gazetted itself from the quarantine hotels, right? So for the hotels, basically, of course, you've heard also many hotels have closed down, some partially, some indefinite number of period. And yes, it's due to sustainability, survival of the fittest who can survive out there. And mainly the major cost involved here is, of course, the manpower. Yeah, manpower. So part of our members at the moment has shut down. However, what we've told them, what we've told our members is those that are still thinking or partially open, they need to start looking at the rebound. Yeah, what's going to happen next? So basically, when we talk about the new norm, what's going to happen next in the marketplace, right? As you rightly say, Nigel, our expected occupancy for the whole year for our members is around 25 to 30%. And that is way below what our usual break-even norm, yeah? Okay, and for that reason, we need to realize that occupancy of hotels will take at least 8 to 12 months from, as how Dato' Tan said, the start date. When is it normal again to do business? Yeah. Now that's just occupancy. But when we talk about average daily rates and RevPARs, that's going to be another 18 to 24 months, because what's going to happen is hotels going to start doing packages. They start going to do promotions to drive domestic market, right? And, the new norm now is, we've heard of Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, now they're looking at people who are really concerned about cleanliness. So, call them Gen Clean, for example, right? You know, and basically hotels, they're not going to have major deco in the lobby anymore. They're probably going to put UV lamps and air purifiers, you know, as decoration to make sure that the increase of cleanliness, hygiene, and sanitization is happening in the hotel. Um, you know, there was a concern when we had the webinar on the HR matter, whereby with technology, are we going to have to reduce manpower? Actually, not really, because, for example, if there's no more buffet breakfast and everything's going to be a la carte, or people are going to start ordering room service, right? Imagine you have an occupancy of about 200 rooms occupied, and you're going to, you know, 50% of them decide to order room service breakfast. You're going to need manpower to go and serve that to the room. So it's a situation where deployed differently in terms of how we operate from now on, right? You know, OTA, online travel agents, is going to be much, much stronger. People will be going online to make their booking, whether it's domestic or even for outbound, right? However, you know, I think when I touch on the marketing side of things, we need to realize that we need to use the technology to enhance the business a bit more, definitely, right? So basically what's going to happen now, we got to understand the travel perception. What are our guests going to perceive, right? Obviously, I keep telling most of my, you know, even my own staff or basically the members, right? The hotels must be the consumer now. In order for you to serve and understand what their perception is, you need to be a consumer. And therefore, you know, you need to make sure that it is safe, right? Therefore, and as you can see in your own survey, right, the preference was hotel because they believe and perceive that there will be a high level of safety and sanitization in hotels as opposed to Airbnb or homestay, right? So we need to use our own online capabilities, be it social media, website, to announce this. Our hotels, when you click into a website of a hotel, you're not going to see the beautiful pictures in the beginning. You're not going to see about beautiful rooms. You're going to look at policies which concerns the safety and what the hotel is doing to ensure that the customers are safe. Only then you probably be looking at nice rooms or nice views. Yeah. So touching on marketing, first thing is our hotels, they need to stay connected with our customers, whether it's the previous customers, the past customers, but definitely try and look for future customers through phone calls, emails, social media. You need to put, the hotels will definitely, and you will see this happening maybe in about a month or two, that there will be a lot of publicity coming out from hotels announcing about their branding. They need to make sure their brand awareness is out there, right? In particular, you need to make sure that the website is updated in accordance to what is current, and especially with regards to safety and security. Now, people are using booking.com, Agoda to make their bookings nowadays, but that's very limited that you can do. You see good rates, you see inclusive rooms and breakfast or just room. Therefore, hotels now, what you will see, they will be coming out and updating their website even more, because customers, as you can see, will be looking for value adds. They want to look now and be able to be a partner with the hotel through the website, which gives them all this information about what they can do in the hotel, what they cannot do in the hotel. Because even if I was to go to Agoda or booking.com, after that, I will still go back to the hotel's website. So this is where the hotels, from the marketing standpoint, use the website effectively. Update your website, put in your policies, add in your value adds. If I book a room, I'm going to get a tour package from Datuk KL Tan to go to Sabah, you know. What do I get from there? So do a total package. And this is where the collaboration between Mata, Ma, Tourism Malaysia and all the other stakeholders that concerns tourism to come in jointly and make this happen, right? Look at funnel marketing. You're going to have to now target your audience. Our hotels will have to target the people based on demographic and the feeder market, right? And revenue management. Wow, that's a huge word now. Okay, that's going to be of a different kind. So revenue management is all about opportunities. What business is out there, and how am I going to to tackle and grab that business? Yeah, and sadly, in the good days, a lot of them were looking like high occupancy, charge higher rate. Now it's a different scenario. Now it's a scenario where you're going to say, I need to fill up my rooms. Therefore, I need now to reach out to my marketplace and say, what are the customers wanting? Yeah. Another business is if a hotel has got loyalty programs, recognition programs, use those database, use those people in your recognition program and conduct a CSR. Use the hotel and a corporate company, use a hotel and members of your loyalty program and create a CSR exercise. That way you still maintain close proximity, you still are in contact with your client, yeah? And of course, when we talk about wanting the business, we need to definitely look at the prevention plan, the safety plan. We need to look at flexible cancellation policies, as how Dr. Tan was saying earlier. On the website, put in the frequently asked questions about COVID-19 and how the hotel is handling. Okay, next, we got to start looking at digital strategies. We need to enhance the service. We need to enhance the communication with the customers and with our staff pertaining to how the hotel is starting up its business again in the midst of COVID-19. Yeah, and then, if you're looking at hotels, again, to reach out to your customers, to keep them close, create webinars with your clients, do cooking lessons, do home spa. People want to go to the spa, but they can't. But if those hotels have got spas, you can actually do a webinar and show how you can create a spa in the house. Again, that is relating your brand back to the customers. One other areas which we can work very closely with Mata is definitely advanced purchase. Book now, buy now the vouchers, buy now the package, and wait for the time to travel. And obviously, these are encouraging, how do you call it, cash flow management, right? And there are certain other points that I like to touch on, which is like, do we go for maximum occupancy now? Personal space. Thing is happening. So communal spaces such as the bar, the lounge, and the hotels, all that's not going to happen anymore. We got to diversify our business. Restaurants need to look at expanding al fresco or even reducing tables in the restaurant itself. I think we've seen what's gone viral in the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken, is Kentucky. Those are situations which is, and this is something that we have to adapt to. Sustainability versus sanitization. Those days you go to a hotel and they say, oh, hang your towel and we won't wash it for you because we want to make sure that there is environment friendly. Now customers are going to say that, I'm probably going to have to wash my towel twice a day. So hotels must realize this, that these are the new norm. Your customers are going to ask you for all this additional sanitization and cleaning of the room, yeah? Turn down services will change. You will probably receive a nice bottle of wine previously. You probably get a bottle of sanitizer, hand sanitizer now as an example. Then we look at in-person versus virtual. That's it, guys. My business is not going to happen for the next couple of months, maybe a year. Therefore, we got to consider virtual. And when we talk about virtual, hotels have to prepare ourselves to be ready to be able to do virtual. Meeting rooms that takes 100 people is going to only take 30 people now. Yeah. Customers are going to expect contactless environment. I believe in your own, in the Mata survey, 82% say social distancing, right? And safety and security, you're going to have staff with face masks. You're going to have to be temperature monitored, right? 79% of the people actually are asking for this, you know? And then the next thing, over tourism versus preservation. Looking at your own survey, beaches are going to be the #1 hit for domestic travel. Now, overcrowding in these landmarks will again create a situation if we are not careful. As you can see now, wildlife are appearing closer to the destination in cities, right? This MCO that has transpired over the last few months, we've been looking at how clean our rivers are now, you know, how clean our beaches are now. There's a whale shark coming to Penang again. I think I saw that when I was 10 years old, long time ago, you know? So at the end of the day, I think, you know, social media, website, that's the way to go. And I encourage the hotels and also the customers out there to start looking at websites of hotels and websites of travel agents, as opposed to going directly to your usual norm, which was OTAs, which is the Agodas or the Booking.com. Because we will want to work very closely with Mata, our partners, our hotel, to partner with Mata and come up with a lot of these packages. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think, you know, those are some of the areas which I touch on, and I think I'm sure there are going to be some questions from your side. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think it's a joint effort between all stakeholders that we need to prepare for the rebounds. Okay. Nigel, thank you so much.
Thanks, Halim. Look, before we go on, there is an interesting point in question here, which I think we have to ask. You've mentioned a few times about how hotels are going to work together with agencies, especially in the promotional arena. What other sort of changes in the relationships do you see between agents and hoteliers? Because, for example, at the moment, there is a big issue on how airlines work together with tour agents. There is a big issue on cancellations, on refunds, on changes of dates, and nobody seems to be able to come to a concerted agreement. So, besides promotion, Halim, do you see any other area in which agents and hotels will start to further develop their relationship?
Well, you know, you will hear from Dr. Musa shortly that domestic travel is going to be the primary strategy for the next couple of months. Now, we want to make sure that any of our guests that comes to the hotel is able to have either a built-in package for them already, as opposed to them going to the concierge, because you want to go contactless. So you don't want to go down to the concierge and actually start talking to them in such close proximity. So you want to make sure that we are able to have a nice all-day package included into the hotel room rates, going to Langkawi or to Penang, to Sarawak, to Sabah, to, you know, or to Johor. What can they do? You see, I think we've brought this concern up with Tourism Malaysia in terms of what's new as well. What are the new attractions that we have in Malaysia? The same questions when we go overseas to meet the contract managers and all that. We seem to be asking that same question ourselves. However, bear in mind, many a times our locals that travel, they are either self-drive. They go to a destination and then they try and figure out what's nice and what's good to do, right? Of course, there's a lot of applications now on the device and phones that they're able to get the information. However, wouldn't it be nice that I can already now, before I even reach the destination, I've already planned out my 2 days, 3 days, what I'm going to do with the family? As you can see in your own survey, there is such a high travel requirement by family. So why don't we work now closely together and prepare this as opposed to wait until the customer asks? Yeah, I think this is something that I've always been saying. The tourism attraction in Malaysia, we have so many. It's unbelievable that, but many people don't know about it either. So we need to now announce this through Tourism Malaysia. We need to now Tourism Malaysia work together with MATA, work together with us, so that there is something that we are able to sell. Our challenge at the moment now is, honestly, sometimes I listen to my own concierge when somebody is asking about where and what can I do in Kuala Lumpur. Number one, they'll say is shopping.
Okay, I'm just going to stop you there. It's a very interesting point that you mentioned, this value-added service. But on the other note, Dato' Tan, do you have anything to add on this point?
I think we are running out of time, Nigel.
We're still okay, Dato' Tan. If there's nothing, we'll carry on later because there's an additional question coming in. Okay, for now, we're going to move on to the next part of our session, which is basically looking at initiatives and strategies from Tourism Malaysia, and basically looking at both short-term and long-term initiatives to empower the industry. So on that note, I would like to hand the session over to Dato' Musa to give us an overview of what's happening on the government scene. Dato' Musa, over to you.
Thank you, Nigel, the moderator, Dato' Keltan, and Mr. Halim, and ladies and gentlemen who's perhaps viewing us tonight. The things that when we talk about, I think the topic for the third series of today is the future of travel trends and market recovery. So we are very much looking forward. I think that's what we are looking at forward instead of looking back. As you can see, the COVID-19 really it is unprecedented, and it really throws everybody, not only Malaysia but the rest of the world. And of course, tourism is the first that suffered, because these are the first movement of people that being in a way restricted. But anyway, just a bit to touch, since perhaps there are some industries players also watching tonight. I would like to mention here that under the stimulus, we are talking just a bit about the stimulus 1, 2, and 3 under the Prihatin as well. Out of 250 billion ringgit disbursed, about 119 billion actually, or 98% of those applicable to tourism industry. The only thing, it is not directly under MOTEC per se to come up with all the incentive, but it is under PERCESO, it's under EPF, it's under HRDF, and the rest. So these are but at the same time, the feedback came, I think if you remember, the more than, I think 20 association came to MOTEC, and together with Tourism Malaysia, we come up with those initiatives that we met the Ministry of Finance, the first round, the second round. I think it's up to 5th round that we discussed on this. And this helped a lot in terms of for us to sustain it at least. Of course, we can get the whole thing. I can understand that, but we are still seeking what are the things, measures that we can improve. So that will answer some of Datuk Tan's earlier comments. And I would also like to share in terms of findings that Tourism Malaysia did to the consumers in Malaysia as well as for the industries. Out of our about 14,000 people that participated in our surveys. And again, like I said, 88.4% prefer now to arrange their travel independently. Of course, domestic, most of them, they're doing FITs. So these are 88%. And 98.8% opted to do their bookings online. So online through directly to the agents, and perhaps to any online platform. Therefore, there's a need for the industry to change a bit. Those maybe not used to online kind of booking, still the traditional, they need to move. Okay, and then of course, again, 63.9% travel domestically with their family and relative. I saw that MATA also having that kind of the same indication. And the perception of travel domestically, this is post MCO, the one that we asking them. Majority of them said COVID-19 has impacted their attitude to travel, meaning they are no longer like before. There's a new norm or the next norm that we have to look into. And majority respondent prefer to travel domestically not only in Malaysia, they would travel domestically, but if you look into some of the report overseas as well, they will start with domestic travel within their countries. Then they will opt out. And then so we are looking at again in terms of hotel and resorts. That's the places that they are looking at because they can understand the standard of hygiene, safety in terms of health as compared to some that managed by individual. So these are the things that some of this info that I can share with you. In terms of marketing, since Tourism Malaysia, basically our heart and soul is promotions. So, and we are not doing it alone, and we always be there with the industry. As you know, Mata will join us for always been with us to Europe, to India, to some other parts. And as you can see, from now until end of third quarter, as what I've mentioned in the discussion with the industry players, I think on the 5th, we were talking about putting Malaysia on the PR side, So we are going enhance all through our strategic com as well as through our digitalization or through social media. We are talking about, hey, Malaysia is safe. This is a place in Malaysia that you should visit. And those are the things that we are putting in. And we are using a lot of digital instead of traditional, because now everybody looking into digital. And most of the time they are not only even Malaysia, but other places, they are looking through social media, FB, Insta, Twitters, and we are using that to talk about the destination and how we are preparing for them to come. And as you can see, this PR exercise basically to restore their confidence about Malaysia. We are embarking with even with Mata and some others as well. For example, to tell them, hey, these are what we are doing in terms of safety, health into all the hotel. How we going to the certification? I think Datuk Tan did mention about it. I think already proposed to us. We're going to have a meeting. I think if not Wednesday, going to be Thursday to discuss the certification of it. So we are embarking on that as well, and it is together with the industry. And a lot of things that we need to in order to boost COVID. We are using the stranded tourists that in Malaysia to talk about how Malaysia is managing COVID-19 and how they feel they prefer staying here instead of going back to their own countries. And we also, our director DG of health, one of the top 5 in the world, that managing this and being testified the rest of it. So we are using all this, and a number of COVID-19 recovered as compared, it is still quite high as compared to those being detected with COVID-19. And all this, the feel-good factor that we need to talk about the destination. And we are also using the user-generated content in order to tell people outside there how Malaysia is managing, how safe is Malaysia, and all the destination. Next, we are going to, on domestic front, we are talking about reform domestic tourism. Again, like what Sheikh Alim was saying, that people looking into safety and health, that's even for the domestic. So we cannot have this domestic, different kind of treatment, international, different kind of. It must be equal because this is the new norm. And because of the domestic traffic now, the consumers' demand, they are not traveling out. We should capitalize them in here. Again, we are still stand guided by Ministry of Health, number of packs. We also requesting number of packs. For example, we were allowed 10. But in a way, gradually, they already mentioned to us, gradually they will increase it. So these are the things that we are putting forward to the MKN as well. And in terms of domestic tourism, the physical travel fair, like for example, Mata travel fair or the web, a lot of people converging. We can see it coming soon, after this. But we need to still pushing it through or virtual travel fair. Previously, the last, I think before COVID, we are doing a lot more physical, less of virtual or e-travel fair. But now maybe the other way around, a lot more in terms of e-travel, but less on physical. And even on our side, even Tourism Malaysia, we are working into reforming, perhaps going for a road show. Instead of going directly there, perhaps we can do a e-road show. We can talk about it. We can have 1,000 participants listening to us, or few hundred people listening to us in certain countries, and it can be managed through Malaysia. And since these are the traffic is still not there for the time being. And in terms of the next step, we're gradually doing this. We need to look into our neighboring countries, because our intention basically very much on ASEAN, because 68.5% coming from ASEAN countries. And as you can see, for example, Australia and New Zealand, how they work together. You know, they put the bubble together. They say, okay, Australia to New Zealand to Australia. So we need to look into that kind of scope. Perhaps for us, we can work with those who manage to mitigate in terms of COVID-19 into their country even better. For example, like Singapore. If you can see, the numbers is higher, but it is not so much of Singaporean. There are the foreign workers in Singapore. Perhaps that we can work with Laos, we can work with Vietnam. So these are the things that we can work together, even our neighboring up north, Thailand, because their numbers is still low. So perhaps we can, instead of having to travel throughout ASEAN, maybe we can pick and choose certain countries neighboring to us, perhaps cross-border, that we can work together. You know, so because tourism is both way, it's not only one way. So these are the things. Then internally in Malaysia, we need to maximize our resources. Talking about federal to federal agencies, federal to the state government, and trickle down to the local council. Again, we need the local council to come in as well, because most hotel, most of these registration of these tourism products will fall within their scope. And they are already local council, they already coming to us, even before COVID, that we are working together to promote the unique selling proposition within their area. And by doing so, we can also work on this one. Again, like I said, federal to federal, we are talking about agro-tourism. The supply side basically is under Ministry of Agriculture, but the promotion part under tourism. So it becomes agro-tourism. So we have to work together. So these are the things that we need to really streamline and put all this SOP and things that we can assist them. So at the same time, the long term, this I'm talking about some parts of the short term things that we're going to work. We have to work on the, currently in terms of tourists coming into any part of the world, they are looking into experiential tourism. We need to expose that a lot more. There's no more talking about city tour, normal city tour, group coming in, you know, with the selected itineraries, but they are now coming in into experiential tourism. They would like to come in to experience something. So it is less people, but they are spending a lot more, because we are talking about more FITs. So I can see through this, for example, even before COVID, we can see there's a trend changing from, for example, from China, from group series, there are a lot of FITs coming in into Malaysia. So we can see with COVID, there'll be a lot more. And even that can grow faster, because we can use digitalization or online in order to attract them. And then once they're coming in, they spend a lot more than the group travel. So in a way, we need to look into the whole broader scope of this reset of tourism, or the new norm, or the next norm we are talking about. And for example, in terms of the industry, I think together with us, we also need to change together. We have to reset the whole thing. Immediately after COVID, things will not be the same anymore. So the way I look at it, we need to, I think Datuk Tan as well as Salim did mention about it. They're very particular about where they're going. Hotel, for example, in terms of, instead of you can, you know, keep your towel hang, therefore, but now more than twice, perhaps they need to be changed, you know, all this kind of thing. So these are the things that we need to work on. But at the same time, to me, we need, I think we have spoken to a lot of the industries association, that to come up with the SOPs. So the current SOPs outlined by MOH, but we need to strengthen it further by having others in. So in order to ensure not only for the Malaysian, but for the international coming in, so they are safe, they are secure. So these are the things that it might take. And if there's anything, you can check with me. Thank you, Nigel, because of the time.
Thank you, Dr. Musa. Nice and concise as usual. Dato, we have a couple of questions that have come in, specifically, I think, for Tourism Malaysia. one question is, with the opening of borders now in Europe, they have actually started ahead of Malaysia. And even given their numbers, they are still bold enough to open their borders back to tourism. Now, the question here is, what is Tourism Malaysia's plan, given that some of our quote-unquote competitors are already opening up and taking a lot of leeway? And number two, how can we ensure on the domestic side, at least, that domestic travelers will also utilize the services of travel agents and operators? Unlike hotels, where you have to be there, you have to stay somewhere, travel agencies are not necessarily seen alike. So, Dato, two questions for you.
Okay, thank you, Nigel. One, we are talking about Europe, for example. Despite they're opening up their borders, but they're opening up their borders because to their surrounding European areas. Because Europe, they're known as one. So they are looking at opening up borders, but not throughout Europe. Because from because we have an office in Europe. So they are constantly, every day, they provide us the information. The data, the intel data that we receive is that basically they're opening up, but there still is certain restriction. It is not to open up, I mean, international traffic coming in or they're going out, but just cross-border because they are suffering as well because in terms of economy. So for example, they're looking at France opening up bid to their neighboring countries. You see? So these are they're not opening up for the rest of Europe to come in, but because they are considered as one. So we are still monitoring this actually. Secondly, in terms of domestic tourism, as you can see, our role basically in terms of domestic, we are inculcating the culture of traveling to fellow Malaysians, getting them to travel. And we already mentioned to them many times, if you're traveling, use your travel intermediaries. Travel intermediaries are the travel agencies that or the auto operator that can advise you. If you're buying insurance, you need the insurance, the insurance advisor. You're buying a share, stock market thing, you need a remiser, for example. So we've been advising them that. But fellow Malaysian, in a way, they say, oh, we know Malaysia's. It is just, in our pocket or something like that. But actually, this is why I'm putting up the challenge to PBT, the local council, to come with us, because this is the unique selling proposition. For example, I'm taking a quote, for example, a state of Perak. Perak, in order to identify their districts, each district will have their own uniqueness. So when they put it differently, for example, the area of Taiping, Larut Matang, so there are people that can travel even within the state into each district and as well from outside of Malaysia coming in. And we've been working on this one and we continue working on this. And the ministers did the first virtual conference, tourism exco, state tourism exco meeting together. And one of the things that for them also to identify what the things needed. For example, Morris in Cameron Highland. Not many people would know about this. So these are the things that we are putting is what we call it messy domestic, but currently we need to do it virtually later on in order for each market to talk about what are the unique selling proposition. And of course, in order to talk about it, we need all this PBT to exchange, and we get the tour operators also to be together in order to do some contracting. And with that, we'll put it on the paper and we distribute it into online. We are actually in a process to have the e-travel fair. We assume by June, everything hopefully slowly will be open up a bit. Therefore, we can start working on e-travel fair. We can work on tourism and travel bazaar that can put everything in. Again, I think we're doing a lot of campaign in order to get the tour company to come in. Again, don't forget, Nigel, as rest of the panels today, we have also domestic travel. Domestic tourism, it is domestic MICE. I'm talking about domestic MICE. Companies within Malaysia traveling within Malaysia. And they need travel advisories. Travel intermediaries, talking about agencies and the rest. So we need to work on For example, if we have a DMC, in order to cater for international market, we need also so to call a DMC or travel agency to look into this respective company, because team building, incentive, small seminars can be done by this company, and they are moving to the hotel as well and some other parts. So we have testified, we call it a corporate travel bazaar. So it must be a dedicated not only to consumer but to the corporate. That will help a lot in terms of businesses to the travel agency. This is what I can foresee this. But of course, we need to adapt to a new norm. Thanks, Nigel.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Musa. I've been told by the staff we still have a little bit of time. So here's another interesting question for all the panelists. Okay, what is the perception of the panelists on the controls or the travel bans being instituted now with relation to tourism? Because on one hand, tourism can't start if cross-border travel is not allowed. Perceptions can't change if cross-border travel, even domestically, is not allowed. So there are two questions here. Number one, when do you think, perhaps maybe this is more for Datuk Musa, when do you think the situation will start to change? Even though the Ministry of Health has already extended the CMCO, what would be a good timeline or horizon for this to change? Number one. And number two, to the industry players, both Datuk Tan as well as Halim, okay? In terms of the industry itself, your members, the travel agents and hotels, okay? What is their sentiment on the ground now? What do they see as the effect of this extended CMCO on their business, not just in the short term, but on their survivability in the midterm? Gentlemen.
Would like to
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Dr. Tan, how about you? Why don't you go first?
Okay, Nigel, to answer the question, I think in the beginning I did mention that we need to strike a balance between travel restrictions, easing up our borders. At the rate we are going, I cannot see anything coming up to September. And at the rate the Ministry of Health is moving on with more threats on MCO bans, if we don't die of COVID-19, I think we will die of financial suicide, mental suicide, undernourishment, and you can see in many countries have driven the people into poverty. I'm not saying lives are not important. As I mentioned earlier, the livelihood is also important. And so with so much restrictions, as I mentioned earlier again, that we cannot even operate any tourism business. I believe that the ministry need to review the situation. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. Halim, what about you?
Okay, can you hear? Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right. Well, definitely, you know, with extension of the CM or the MCO basically, and it's now under a conditional MCO. Definitely, interstate travel is only permitted for certain criteria. It's not freely. Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So definitely when we talk about domestic market now, it's also very, very slow. It's almost not happening. I do hear that some of the hotels which are doing project teams, who are housing project teams, who are, you know, like in Pengerang, for instance, based on an industry such as oil and gas, yeah, they are having good occupancy because after the MCO was lifted up, some of the people started coming back to stay in the hotels. But it's not open to everybody. Yeah, all the hotels are still suffering. They are continuing to be in difficult situation, especially financially. And we have, you know, I see a question in there as well. We have written in not only to Malaysian Tourism, but we have also written in to MOF with regards to certain assistance in terms of survival for the business. Yeah. So we are yet to hear from both ministries or those ministries involved. We have also written in again to Ministry of Human Resources with regards to an extension of the ERP or the WSP. So to answer your question, unless and when we find the date where it is starting to be normal, then things are bad. Yeah, and we are very much dependent on the government support for sure, right? And you know, we talk about domestic travel. Malaysian Association of Hotel has actually submitted to our members a guideline on the safety already. We've also submitted a copy to Malaysian Tourism, and we would like them to actually somewhat endorse it to a certain level to say that these are the standards that will be used by the member hotels. And these standards is actually in accordance to MOH. What we have done also, we've used the post-COVID from China. Some of the international brands, the members have supported us, giving us the information on how to move the next level after post-COVID, after they open up. So our 1,200 members have received the guideline. It is now a matter of implementation. We are asking also to do independent audits by the chapters so that we can be assured that our members are compliant. Yeah, of course, this requires money for sure, because there are a lot of new things we need to do apart from the usual cleaning, right? So I see a question in there that says, is it, what about the hotels that are closing? If I want to do domestic travel, but the hotel that I want to go to has decided to close down. Unfortunately, I cannot say very much about that. It's a decision by the owners, basically. We as an association, we do not get involved in terms of the business decision. We only provide them services and also guidelines and guidance. So I hope and I pray that that couple that usually travel to Malacca, that your hotel remains open, and and once this is all lifted up, you can go back to your favorite spots. Yeah. And I see also a question in there about package rates for hotels that are very expensive if the travel agent was to provide us. We are asking the travel agent to be partner with us so that we are able to do a la carte on our website, right? So a guest can go into the website, our website, the hotel should start doing that click, what you want to do, and then that package calculates by itself and then says, this is the amount that you're going to have to pay. As opposed to going to the concierge and say, I want to buy a day trip, and that, yes, will be very expensive indeed. Yeah, so, okay.
Thank you, Halim. Dr. Musa, what do you say?
Well, if you talk about domestic, when the MCO, the restriction of movement, I think the example that we can look into basically is China. How, within China last time, the lockdown, they been like, for example, Hubei province, like more than 50 million people, they can't travel. So when there is the travel within domestically, so people start to travel. But there's a SOP that need to be adhered to. That's why during my discussion with the industry players recently, we need to come up with the SOP. And what we have done is that we brought up that SOP to MKN and through MOTEC. Therefore, that's why last Friday, there's good news that they say, okay, tour company, you can open up because this is a back office kind of thing. So, but we cannot provide these tourism activities. And yes, we say yes, we agree to that. And we're still monitoring. This is why if you look into the government is, because they have the data and everything into the Ministry of Health. Because number of movement. This is why this Hari Raya will be a good indicator. If nothing happen in terms of COVID-19, then the government can ease later on. I'm not saying that government, they can look into thinking of easing this, because it is no longer the government or the Ministry of Health, but the Malaysian, they need to really take care of themselves, to take care of their neighbor. Kita jaga kita. We need to everybody, take in charge of everybody in order for us to move on. But in terms of tourism Malaysia, we are looking at hopefully by June. It is our prediction by June. It maybe towards the end of June, that we can look into. If we can do some e-travel fair, e-seminar, then gradually, for example, this afternoon we had some discussion among us. Now only 10 packs are allowed to move in and out, in terms of going for function, things like that, 10 people. But a tour company like Mata members having a tour coaches, it is 40 packs. So we are looking into perhaps we can increase this of 10 to 20. But as you can see in Prime Minister's address to the nation as well, talking about gradually it will improve. So I think we can look into, for example, interstate now you can't move. But if you're in Johor Bahru, you can travel to Muar. It is more than 110 kilometers. Right? So within the state, you can travel. And these are the things that the state themselves can promote within the states. So we can look into that. But again, if you're moving in cross state, perhaps that's not allowed and so on. But again, like I said, it is us, the people of Malaysia, to determine whether it can be eased. But I can feel that perhaps June we can look into to easing it up. But in terms of international, we are looking into perhaps by December, by last quarter of this year, that we can have some traffic coming in. Even depends on the airline, if there's airlines coming into Malaysia, because currently not of so much of the destination that people are scared of. They're looking at to be on the plane also. They're not sure whether they can be on the plane, whether they're safe to be on the plane. So in order to come into Malaysia also, there's another factor. Talking about cruise ship, nobody wants to be in a cruise ship. There's an industry, for example, that we have to look into. And for us, in terms of domestic, if it's been eased, we are looking at perhaps, if not, I don't think it's early June, but perhaps towards the end of June, perhaps we can see some movement, inshallah. Thank you.
Dr. I want to pose this question to you. Today, in nationwide Mata members, we have 18,000 hire and drive vehicles and tourism vehicles. But today you said we are gradually going to be opened up. I want to ask you a question, to ask back to the Ministry of Defense. Why is our 18,000 sanitized vehicles not safe, but public transportation, taxis, e-hailing vehicles are safe to be on the road? That is my question to you. At this rate, we are gradually open up, not you, I know it's by the MK and the Ministry of Defense. Are you telling me that our 18,000 sanitized with proper distancing, with the controls set out by APAT, is not safe to be on the road? That's my question to you, Dr.
No, actually, Dato' Tan, that's not because of the vehicle. We are talking about easing it, meaning to allow the movement of traffic, meaning talking about people to people. Once people can start moving, then the vehicle, the whatever thing can come in. So these are the things that we are looking at, the number of traffic. We are, for example, once hotel now being easing up, we are also looking at, I think Montek will call up for a discussion tomorrow and then after tomorrow, in terms of a hotel instead of ballroom. There's a new norm now. Perhaps one ballroom can accommodate 1,000 packs. Now with this new SOP that used to be 1,000 packs cannot ballroom, how many packs can be accommodated? Maybe it may be half of it, 500, or maybe even lesser, or even more. So we're not talking about the vehicles or the taxis, things like that, Dato' Tan. But it is very much on the movement of people currently we're looking at. So I think there's no issues of sanitizing of vehicles, things like that. Once people can start moving and those SOP that you have placed, that will take effect. So I think that's what I can see.
I can take note of your answer. I'm okay, but which means that we will be bleeding, inverted commas, to financially death, because we are not moving our vehicles and we have no income. That's my point also. Thank you.
Not only tour coaches actually not moving, actually even factory buses, school buses actually. And of course we understand this, and this is where then, if you remember, the first part when the stimulus one was given, that the moratorium to the tour company, things like that. Then we realize most of the tour company having it through the leasing or hire purchase. So it is under, not under MOF, not under Bank Negara. It is under KPKT, and we managed to get in touch with KPKT, and KPKT managed to convince this licensed so-called hire purchase company to perhaps some of them giving up only 3 months, I was told. So hopefully, if there's an issue, these are the things that we can take up again to KPKT.
Okay, thank you very much. So, gentlemen, I'm sorry, but we have to wrap it up very, very quickly. So just to sum it up, before we sum it up, the STAR is going to release a quick survey to all participants. It's a very short survey. While this is wrapping up, do take your time to quickly answer, and this will help enhance our future webinars. So just to recap, we talked today about moving forward, and many of the key points that were mentioned. Number one, of course, was digital and technology. And we do know that the game is changing and that all aspects of the industry is going to have to modernize. We also looked at the opening of borders, and at this point in time, there seems still to be no consensus as to when the horizon will be, when Malaysians will be able to travel in varying degrees. And while that is still going on, the tourism industry is still has a big question mark hanging over it. And last but not least, there are still many items that need to be addressed before the recovery phase can take part, mentioned by some of the panelists already, and we are still apparently in the survival or restructuring mode. So to top it off, I think to the panelists, in general, the industry is looking forward to a more decisive roadmap from which the industry can plan their own recovery processes and, God willing, maintain their staff and their talent for when this COVID-19 is over. So just